Kim stood in the middle of the backyard, shaking so hard that her teeth almost clicked together. The cold evening wind brushed against her face, but she couldn't feel anything. Her eyes were locked on the shallow pit at her feet, a pit she had uncovered with her own hand.
Please let me go! What do you want from me?
A pit she wished she had never touched. Inside it was her mother, or at least most of her mother. Martha's body lay twisted, covered in dirt, her clothes soaked and ruined, her skin pale and lifeless. But the part that made Kim's breath vanish from her lungs, the part that made her heart slam against her ribs, was the thing missing. Her mother's head. Gone. Cut off. Kim froze, unable to scream, unable to move, unable to understand what she was seeing. She felt like the world had stopped spinning, like the sky had dropped all its color, like someone had snatched the air straight out of her chest. Her ears rang, her vision blurred at the edges, and for a second she felt her knees give way. She would have collapsed if not for the sound behind her. A slow crunch, a heavy footstep, someone stepping onto the gravel path behind the shed, someone she knew too well. David, her mother's boyfriend, the last man to see Martha alive. The man who told her over and over again that her mother had just needed space, that she went off somewhere, that she did this sometimes. The man Kim had never trusted for even 1 second. She heard his breath first. Slow, shaky, too close, then the sound of something metal sliding against wood, like a tool being picked up. Kim's throat tightened. She didn't dare turn around. Not yet. The only thing she knew was this. She wasn't alone in the backyard anymore, and she was standing over the body he thought he had hidden forever. Kim swallowed hard, her mind racing. She needed to run. She needed to scream. She needed help, right now. But before she could move, David's voice floated toward her, low and shaky. "What did you do, Kim?" His tone wasn't shocked. It wasn't confused. It wasn't scared. It was angry. And that was when Kim realized she had only seconds before something terrible happened. What she didn't know was that this moment, standing alone beside her mother's decapitated body with her mother's killer behind her, was only the beginning, because the next few hours would expose dark secrets, hidden lies, and a truth far worse than the backyard grave she had just uncovered. A truth Kim was never meant to find. And as David took another slow step toward her, holding something long, sharp, and cold in his hand, Kim's breath finally caught in her throat. She turned, and everything went black. But to understand how Kim ended up in this backyard, how her mother ended up buried in it, and how this nightmare began, we have to go back to the very first day things started to feel wrong. And nothing was wrong at first. Nothing at all. 3 weeks earlier, Kim sat in her car in front of her mother's house, tapping her thumb anxiously against the steering wheel. She had driven over for the 3rd time that week. Something she normally didn't do, but she couldn't shake the strange feeling in her stomach. It had been 5 days since she last heard from her mom, and every hour that passed made the silence louder and heavier. Her mother always answered. Always. Even when she was overwhelmed. Even when she was tired. Even when she was upset with Kim. 5 days was impossible. Kim pushed open the car door, rushed up the walkway, and knocked hard. No answer. She tried again. Nothing. She pressed her ear against the door, waiting for any sound. A footstep. A voice. Something. Silence. She stepped back and looked around. The curtains were closed. The porch light was off. The plants were dry. The mailbox had mail stuffed tight inside. Something was wrong. She felt it in her bones. She pulled out her phone and dialed her mom for the 10th time that morning. Straight to voicemail. Again. Her heart squeezed. Then she heard a voice behind her. "Looking for your mom?" Kim turned and saw David standing by the fence, wearing dirty jeans and a faded t-shirt, holding a mug like he had just stepped outside casually. His eyes were puffy, and his hair was messy, but Kim couldn't tell if it was from sleep or something darker. "Where is she?" Kim asked quickly. "She's not answering her phone, she's not home, and..." "She's fine," David interrupted, waving his hand like her worry was ridiculous. We had a fight, she needed space. You know how she gets sometimes. That sentence made Kim's jaw clench. You know how she gets. People used that excuse when they didn't want to explain something. When did you last see her? Kim asked. A few days ago. He took a sip from the mug. Maybe 4. Maybe 5. Maybe. Kim snapped. You live with her. David shrugged. When she leaves, she leaves. I'm not her babysitter. Kim stared at him, searching his face for any sign of the truth. But his expression was flat, too flat. No worry, no confusion, no anger, no sadness, nothing, just emptiness. Kim's stomach twisted again. Did you two fight? She pressed. David's jaw tightened. That's none of your business. It is if she's missing. She's not missing. She left. Then where did she go? He took another sip. Don't know. Kim began to shake with frustration. Did she take her purse? Yeah. Her phone? Sure. Her keys? Guess so. But something in his voice didn't match his words. You guess so? Kim repeated, narrowing her eyes. David sighed loudly, like he couldn't be bothered. Look, she said she wanted space. She walked out. She'll be back. That's it. But Kim knew her mom. Her mom didn't walk out without telling her. Her mom didn't disappear without warning. Her mom didn't vanish. Kim stepped closer to David, lowering her voice. What did you do? David's expression didn't change, but something cold flickered in his eyes. Careful, he muttered. Kim felt her heart rate spike. She knew right then that she needed to act fast. She needed to call the police. She needed to file a report. So she did. She drove straight to the station and told an officer everything. Her mom missing, the strange behavior, David's vague answers, the silence that felt too heavy. But the officer only nodded slowly and said, Adults can leave if they want to. We can't file this yet. Kim slammed her hands on the counter. She didn't leave. Something's wrong. But the officer just gave her a sympathetic look and handed her a card. Call us if she doesn't show up. Kim walked out feeling like the world was ignoring her. Like no matter how loud she shouted, no one was listening. Over the next few days, she called again. And again. And again. Still nothing. Every morning, she went back to the house. She watched the windows. She checked the yard. She looked for anything, any sign that her mom had been there. Then one evening, as she was leaving, she noticed something she hadn't seen before. A patch of dirt near the back fence. Fresh, dark, still damp. It didn't match the rest of the yard. It looked disturbed. A shiver ran down her spine. She didn't want to assume. She didn't want to imagine the worst. She didn't want to believe her mother was buried there. But the feeling inside her said the truth quietly, darkly, painfully. Check it. She returned the next day with gloves, a small shovel, and a heart racing so fast she could hear it inside her ears. She waited until David left the house. He usually left around noon, and the moment the door slammed shut, she ran to the backyard. With every scoop of dirt she moved, her body trembled harder. 2 inches down. Nothing. 5 inches. A root. 7 inches. A piece of cloth. 9 inches. A smell. A smell that made her stomach twist into knot. She sat back, covering her mouth, tears filling her eyes. No, no, please no. But she kept digging. She had to. She needed answers. She needed truth. Then she saw skin. Cold, pale, still. Her heart nearly stopped. She dug faster, her hands shaking, her breath shallow. Then she uncovered the body. And then she realized the head wasn't there. Kim screamed without making a sound. Her mind broke open like glass. But she wasn't alone. She heard David's footsteps behind her. A slow crunch. A cold breath. A man holding something sharp. And the moment she spun around, everything in her world cracked apart. Because what David did next would change the entire story. Forever. And that moment, right before Kim blacked out, would be the start of something even darker. Kim opened her eyes to darkness. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. She couldn't tell if she was lying down, sitting up, or floating in some strange space between sleep and terror. Her head throbbed, her fingers tingled, her ears buzzed like 1,000 tiny bells ringing inside her skull. Then slowly, shapes formed, colors returned, her vision sharpened. She was in David's basement. Her heart dropped. She knew this place. Dim, cold, cluttered with old boxes and tools. The air smelled like dust and metal. A single bulb hung from the ceiling, swinging slightly as if it had been hit. Kim tried to sit up, but her wrists burned. That was when she felt it, the tight grip of something wrapped around them. Zip ties. Her arms were tied behind her back. Panic shot through her chest like lightning. She gasped. No, no, no. Before she could finish, she heard footsteps above her. Slow, heavy, walking across the living room floor. David. Kim's breathing sped up. She tried to move her hands, twisting her wrists, but the ties bit into her skin. She couldn't escape them. They were too tight. Her heartbeat thudded so loudly she could hear it echoing in her ears. Then she heard the basement door creak open. A strip of bright light sliced down the staircase. David's shadow stretched long and crooked across the steps before he began walking down, one slow step at a time. Kim froze like a statue. He stopped halfway down the stairs, staring at her with an expression she had never seen before. Calm, too calm, like he was thinking deeply about something she wouldn't understand. "You shouldn't have been digging," he said quietly. Kim swallowed hard, her voice trembling. "Where is my mother's head?" David blinked once. "You're not strong enough to handle that answer." Kim closed her eyes, refusing to let fear win. "You killed her." He didn't react. He didn't deny it. He didn't look sorry. He simply walked the rest of the way down the stairs and set something on the work table nearby. Kim couldn't see what it was, but it made a small metal clink. "Why did you bury her in the backyard?" Kim asked, her voice weak. David rubbed his forehead like he was tired. "Because she wouldn't listen to me." Kim felt anger spark in her chest. "She didn't have to listen to you. She wasn't your property." David shot her a sharp look. "Stop talking." Kim didn't. She couldn't. "She wanted to leave you, didn't she?" "She told me before." "She wasn't leaving," David snapped, taking a step forward. "She wasn't going anywhere. She was mine." Kim felt sick. He meant it. He believed it. David moved to a shelf and picked up a roll of duct tape. Kim's throat tightened. "What are you doing?" she whispered. "Trying to figure out what to do with you," he said plainly. "I didn't plan for this." Kim's breath hitched. "Please, please don't hurt me." David didn't answer. He walked behind her, and she shut her eyes tight, waiting for pain. But instead, he stopped and whispered, "You're just like her." Then he walked away. Kim's mind raced. She needed to think. She needed to slow her breathing. She needed to find something sharp. Anything sharp. Something she could use to cut the ties. David moved around the room, mumbling to himself, picking up tools, putting them down. His hands shook. His eyes darted. He wasn't calm. He was breaking apart piece by piece. Kim noticed something on the floor nearby. The edge of a broken glass jar. Sharp enough. If she could reach it, she could maybe cut the ties. She shifted her body slightly, inching toward it while keeping her breath steady. Slow. Quiet. Careful. The jar was only a foot away. She inched another inch. Another inch. Almost there. Then, David suddenly turned. "What are you doing?" Kim froze. He walked toward her, grabbed the chair she was tied to, and dragged it to the center of the room. The legs scraped loudly, making the sound bounce off the basement walls. Kim clenched her jaw to stop herself from crying out. "Stop moving," he said sharply. "If you stay still, this will be easier." Kim's heart pounded. Easier for who? David stared at her for a long moment. A strange, unsettling quiet filled the room. He stepped closer, so close that Kim could see a faint bruise on his cheek, a scratch near his jaw, dirt under his fingernails. Signs of struggle. Signs her mother must have fought. That thought fueled Kim's fear and her anger. David leaned forward. Your mother wasn't supposed to fight me. She made things harder than they needed to be. Kim glared at him. She probably tried to run. That's what you hate, isn't it? Women leaving you. David stiffened. Shut up. You're weak, Kim said, voice trembling but steady. You couldn't handle her saying no. David's jaw twitched. Stop talking. You hurt her because she tried to get away from you. David slammed his fist into the table, making the tools rattle violently. I said stop. Kim jumped but didn't look away. She knew she had to keep him emotional, keep him distracted, keep him off balance until she found a chance to escape. David paced again, running his hands through his hair. Kim's eyes scanned the room desperately for anything, any small mistake, any hidden option, any exit. Then she heard a soft buzz. Her phone. Her phone was in David's back pocket. Her mind raced. If someone, anyone, called her, the sound might alert him. He might panic. He might do something drastic. But then something else hit her. Someone was calling her. Someone was looking for her. Maybe someone already knew she was missing. David pulled out the phone, looked at the screen, and his expression twisted into frustration. Why are so many people calling you? Kim's hope flickered to life. He threw the phone onto the table, screen facing up. Kim's eyes darted toward the basement door. She wondered, if she screamed, would anyone hear her? No, not likely. The house sat in a quiet neighborhood, and the basement walls were thick. But if she got free, if she got upstairs, if she made it to the door. David walked back toward her with the duct tape in hand. Kim swallowed. Please, she whispered one last time. David didn't respond. He pulled a strip from the roll. But then the basement door creaked again. He froze. Kim froze. Footstep. Soft. Quick. Someone else was in the house. David's eyes widened. Who is that? He turned off the basement light and moved toward the stairs, staying low, listening carefully. Kim held her breath. Then a voice floated down from upstairs. Hello? Martha? Are you home? Stay still, he warned. Kim shook her head violently. No. No. He reached her, grabbing the back of the chair and dragging it toward the cabinet. Kim's feet scraped the floor, her body jerking with each pull. Stop, she cried. Someone help me. The police banged louder upstairs. Boom, boom, boom. Then, crack. The front door broke open. Kim's chest exploded with hope. Voices poured into the house. Clear the living room. Move down the hall. Check every door. David froze. Kim saw his whole body tense like a cornered animal. He let go of the chair and grabbed the metal tool again, gripping it tightly. He wasn't thinking straight anymore. He wasn't planning. He was reacting. And that made him even more dangerous. Kim heard footsteps upstairs. Fast, steady, getting closer. A voice shouted, "Basement door found." David backed away from the stairs, holding the tool up like he was ready to attack the first person who walked down. His breathing grew ragged. Kim felt her heart pounding so loudly she thought it might burst. David Callahan, a police officer called from upstairs. We know you're down there. David didn't reply. He stood still, waiting. The knob turned. Kim's breath caught in her throat. The door swung open. Light poured down the stairs. A figure appeared at the top. Dark uniform, protective vest, flashlight aimed downward. Put your hands where we can see them, the officer shouted. David stepped backward, shaking his head. No, 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 no. Drop it, the officer yelled. David didn't. The officer stepped down one stair. David lunged forward, fast, wild, desperate. Kim gasped. The officer fired. A single deafening blast tore through the basement. Kim screamed, jerking against the chair as David stumbled backward, dropping the tool. He hit the wall hard and slid down, breathing fast and shallow. Another officer rushed down the stairs. Subject down. Secure the area. 2 officers ran to Kim, cutting the zip ties, pulling the chair away. You're safe, one said firmly. We've got you. Kim could barely hear him. Her ears rang from the gunshot. Her vision blurred. Her hands throbbed with pain. But she could still see David lying on the floor. Still breathing. Not dead. Not unconscious. Just watching her. His lips moved, barely making sound. You weren't supposed to find her. Kim felt tears stream down her face. Her whole body shook. An officer put a blanket around her shoulders and guided her toward the stairs. Come on, we need to get you upstairs. Kim nodded weakly, her legs trembling as she climbed the stairs with help. But as she reached the top step, a scream came from the kitchen. We have another body. Kim froze. Her heart stopped. She turned. Officers rushed toward the voice. More shouting. More chaos. More shock. Kim's legs gave out and she dropped to her knees. Another body? Who? How? She looked back at the basement stairs, shaking so hard she couldn't breathe. David had hurt someone else. Someone besides the man he dragged down the stairs. Someone else had been in the house. Someone else had been lying somewhere she didn't know. And the worst part was, Kim suddenly remembered something. The screams earlier. The crash. The thud. What if that wasn't the visitor? What if the visitor upstairs wasn't the only one in the house? What if? The officer who found the body shouted again, voice trembling. There's a message carved into the wall. Kim's entire body froze. A message? Left by who? Or left for who? The officer read it aloud, shouting across the house. She wasn't the only one. Kim's world spun violently. And before she could process any of it, a second officer burst into the hallway, breathless. We have to move now. We just found a hidden door in the kitchen floor. Every officer went still. Kim felt her blood run cold. Hidden door? What was under it? What else had David been hiding? And who or what was inside waiting? Because this discovery was about to reveal the darkest part of the entire case. Kim did not move. She could not move. Her mother's body was lying only a few feet away, half buried in the cold, muddy soil, and the man who put her there was now standing right behind her. His breath heavy, his voice shaking, his shadow swallowing hers on the dirt floor. Kim, David said again, slower this time. Why are you here? His tone wasn't angry. It wasn't loud. It was quiet. Too quiet. Like someone trying not to wake a sleeping animal that could eat him alive. And that small whisper made Kim's skin crawl even more. Her throat felt dry. Her fingers shook. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. She couldn't tell if she wanted to scream, cry, or run. Her body felt glued to the spot. David stepped a little closer, and she heard the crunch of dirt under his shoes. I asked you something, he said, his voice low. Answer me. Kim finally found her voice. It came out thin and shaky. I came to check on Mom. He exhaled, long and slow, like he was disappointed she didn't give a different answer. You shouldn't be here, he said. Not today. Kim felt her heart slam hard against her ribs. Her eyes darted to the open grave, then back to him. She didn't know if she should lie, pretend she hadn't seen anything, or make a run for the stairs. David took another step. You've been asking too many questions, he said. Going to the police. Showing up at my job. Calling my phone every day. That's not healthy, Kim. I told you your mother left. I told you she needed space. But you didn't listen. Kim swallowed hard. Because that wasn't true. David's jaw twitched. You don't know what's true. But I know what I'm looking at, she whispered. That single sentence changed the air in the basement. David's shoulders tensed. He stopped moving. His eyes darkened, not with anger, but with something worse. Acceptance, understanding, as if he finally knew that whatever story he had been building was falling apart right in front of him. Kim stepped back slowly, hoping she could reach the stairs without him noticing. But David's eyes followed her feet. "Don't," he warned. She froze again. "Kim, you don't understand how any of this happened," he said. "Your mother wasn't well. She did things you don't know about. She said things you don't know about. You're blaming the wrong person." "She didn't deserve this," Kim whispered. "You're right," he said quietly. "She didn't." For a long moment, neither of them moved. The basement felt like the whole world had collapsed into one tiny square of dirt, silence, and danger. The smell of damp earth mixed with cold fear. A single drop of water fell from the basement ceiling, echoing like a warning bell. Kim's mind raced. She needed a plan. Something, anything, but nothing made sense. Every path she imagined seemed impossible. She could try to run up the stairs, but David stood too close. She could try to scream, but they were in a basement buried under his house, in a quiet neighborhood where no one was outside. She could try to talk him down, but she had no idea what he was capable of anymore. Before she could think of anything else, David moved first. He stepped forward and grabbed her arm, not hard, but firm enough that she couldn't pull away. She gasped, stumbling, and he steadied her with his other hand. "Stop fighting," he said. "You're only making this harder." "Let me go," she said, her voice cracking. "I can't do that." He pulled her toward the center of the basement. Kim felt panic surging through her chest. Her breaths came fast. She twisted her arm, trying to break free, but David tightened his grip. "Please," she begged. "Please don't do this. You weren't supposed to come here," he said. "You weren't supposed to keep searching. I was trying to help you move on." "You killed her," Kim cried. His expression shifted. Not guilt, not fear. Something colder, resignation. "I didn't have a choice," he said. "And now you're giving me no choice either." Kim's heart dropped so hard she felt dizzy. She tried to yank away again, but David held her like someone holding onto the last piece of a crumbling ledge. That was when she made a decision. Not a smart one, not a planned one, a survival one. She pretended to stumble, letting her knees buckle. David leaned forward to steady her, loosening his grip for half a second, and that was enough. Kim ripped her arm free and bolted toward the stairs. David cursed behind her, the first time she had heard him raise his voice. She scrambled up the steps, grabbing the railings so hard her knuckles ached. Her foot slipped once, but she caught herself, pushing forward with every ounce of strength left in her. She reached the basement door and shoved it open. Cold air from the hallway hit her face. She was almost out. Then a hand grabbed the back of her shirt. Kim screamed. David pulled her backward with one violent jerk. She hit the floor hard, her elbow slamming painfully against the wood. She gasped, rolling away, but David was already stepping through the doorway after her. "You're making this so much worse," he shouted, panic now breaking through his voice. Kim scrambled to her feet and dashed down the hallway. She didn't know where she was going. She just knew she needed distance, any distance. But David was faster than she expected. His footsteps thundered behind her, shaking the narrow hallway. Kim turned a corner sharply, slipping on the hardwood, barely catching herself. She reached the living room and looked around desperately for something, anything she could use. Her eyes landed on the front window. It was closed, but that didn't matter. She wasn't thinking about the glass. She was thinking about escape. Behind her, David yelled her name. Kim lunged toward the window. At the last second, she felt his hand grab her wrist again. She twisted, kicking backward, and her heel struck something, his shin, maybe his knee. David grunted in pain and loosened his grip. Kim didn't wait. She threw her shoulder into the window with everything she had. The glass shattered outward with a loud crash, sending shards spraying onto the porch. A cold burst of air hit her face as she stumbled halfway through the opening. She could feel blood on her arm from the cuts, but she didn't stop. She pushed through the broken frame as David grabbed her ankle. "Kim, stop." She kicked wildly. One kick connected. His grip broke. Kim fell out onto the porch, rolling onto the wooden boards, shards of glass crunching under her. She scrambled to her feet, slipping once before she caught her balance. She sprinted off the porch and into the yard. David didn't chase her immediately. She heard him behind her, cursing, stumbling, maybe cutting himself on the window, but she didn't look back to see. She ran into the street. Her lungs burned. Her legs shook. Her hair stuck to her face. She kept running until she saw something that made her nearly collapse with relief. A police cruiser. It was parked 2 houses away, the officer inside writing something on a clipboard, unaware of the chaos happening just feet away. Kim screamed. The officer looked up sharply as she stumbled into the street, waving her arms, shaking, bleeding, crying. "Help!" she yelled. "Please help me. He killed my mother. He tried to." She couldn't finish. The officer threw the door open and rushed toward her. And behind her, just as she collapsed into the officer's arms, David appeared on the porch, standing in the broken window frame, staring at her with wild eyes. The officer saw him. David saw the officer. Everything froze for one split second. Then David turned and bolted back inside the house. The officer grabbed his radio. Kim grabbed the officer's sleeve. Sirens began roaring from somewhere far away, growing louder. And from inside the house, a door slammed, then another, then silence. David was running. But where? And what would he do now that Kim had survived? Everything around Kim felt like a blur. Sirens growing louder, the officer's radio crackling with commands, neighbors stepping out onto their porches with shocked faces. But all she could focus on was the quiet, empty front door of David's house. The door he ran through. The door that now hid whatever he was planning next. The officer guided her toward the patrol car. "You're safe now," he said firmly, his hand steady on her shoulder. "Stay here. Do not move." Kim nodded, though her body was trembling from head to toe. Safe. The word felt unreal. Nothing about this moment felt safe. The officer turned away and shouted into his radio, "Suspect is inside the house. Male, mid-50s, dangerous. Request immediate backup. Possible homicide scene on site." Kim's breath hitched at the word homicide. Hearing it out loud made everything she'd been fighting to prove feel suddenly too real. Too heavy. Too close. Within seconds, 2 more patrol cars screeched onto the street, followed by an unmarked detective vehicle. Officers jumped out, some rushing toward Kim, others spreading around the yard, aiming their flashlights and weapons toward the house. "Where did he go?" a tall detective asked, kneeling beside her. He went inside," Kim whispered. "Through the living room. I heard doors slamming. I think he ran toward the back." The detective nodded and stood, signaling the other officers. "Secure the perimeter. Nobody in or out." Kim watched as officers circled around the house, weapons drawn, voices low and steady. She hugged herself tightly, trying to keep herself from shaking apart. One officer walked up holding a medical kit. "You're bleeding," he said gently. Kim glanced down at her arm. Glass cuts. She had forgotten all about them. The officer cleaned and wrapped them quickly, but her eyes stayed fixed on the house. On the window she'd smashed. On the basement she'd escaped from. On the man still hiding just a few steps away. She whispered to herself, "Please don't let him get away." A loudspeaker crackled to life. "David Callahan. This is the police. Come out with your hands up." The shout echoed through the neighborhood. Dogs barked down the street. A baby cried somewhere behind them. But the house stayed silent. Another command. "David, come out now." Nothing. Kim swallowed hard. She wasn't sure which outcome scared her more. David bursting out in a desperate attack, or never coming out at all. After a few seconds, the detective returned to her side. "Kim," he said gently, "I need you to tell me everything you saw, everything that happened. We need to know if he has weapons, if he's injured, if he might try to escape out the back." Kim took a slow, shaky breath. "There's a door in the kitchen that leads to the backyard," she said. "And another one in the basement. He could run through either of them." The detective nodded and signaled 2 officers to reposition. And the basement? He asked quietly. What exactly did you find? Kim's voice wavered. My mother's body. He buried her there. Almost completely. The detective's eyes softened. I'm so sorry. Kim looked away, tears burning behind her eyes. She didn't want pity. She wanted answers. She wanted justice. She wanted this nightmare to end. Another shout broke through the evening air. David, if you do not come out, we will enter. Kim watched the house closely, waiting for a door to swing open, for a figure to appear, for something, anything, to happen. But the house stayed stubbornly still. Officers moved closer. One of them slowly opened the front door. Another held a flashlight high, illuminating the broken glass, the scattered shards, the messy living room. They entered. Kim held her breath. She could hear them moving through the house. Doors opening, officers calling out commands, footsteps echoing through rooms that she had just sprinted across minutes earlier. Then, clear. Living room clear. Kitchen clear. Basement clear. Each shout made her heart pound harder. David wasn't where they expected him to be. Then, suddenly, we found a back door open. Suspect may have fled the property. Kim's breath collapsed. No, he can't be gone. He can't. The detective spoke quickly into his radio, calling for K9 units, drones, and a neighborhood lockdown. Officers sprinted toward the back of the house, flashlights slashing across the dark yard, scanning fences, sheds, bushes, anywhere someone could hide. Start canvassing the block, an officer shouted. Check every alley, every shed, every yard. Kim's knees went weak. She grabbed the side of the patrol car to keep herself upright. He ran. He really ran. But why? To hide? To escape? Or to come after her again? The thought made her stomach twist. One of the officers returned from behind the house. We found footprints heading toward the woods behind the property. Fresh ones. The detective nodded sharply. Track teams are on the way. He won't get far. Kim wished she believed that. Minutes passed. Then more minutes. Officers disappeared into the trees behind the neighborhood, flashlights blinking between the branches. Radios hissed and crackled with updates. But David was still nowhere. Finally, after what felt like an hour, the detective returned to Kim. We're still searching, he said. But I need to take your statement now. And after that, you're coming with us to the station. You shouldn't be out here now. Kim nodded weakly. She knew he was right. But she felt glued to the spot, unable to fully pull herself away from that yard, that house, that unfinished chase. What if he comes back? She whispered. He's not coming back here, the detective said. He knows we're everywhere. He knows he has nowhere safe to go. Kim looked toward the dark trees behind the house. The wind rustled the leaves, making the shadows sway and shift. For a second, one shadow looked like a person watching from a distance. She blinked, but the shadow was gone. An officer gently guided her into the patrol car. She sank into the seat, exhausted, shaking, drained of everything except a burning ache in her chest. Her mother was gone. David was on the run. And the world suddenly felt enormous and empty and terrifying. But as the patrol car started moving, Kim made herself look out the window one last time. At the house, at the shattered window she jumped through, at the basement where she found her mother, and at the dark woods where the man who took her mother's life was now hiding. She whispered, quietly but firmly, "They're going to find you." It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a hope. It was a promise. And deep down, she knew this story wasn't ending here. It was only ending today. Tomorrow, the search for justice would begin. And when they finally caught David Callahan, the world would know every single thing he had tried to hide.